Greetings, Hope Church family. I want to make a statement today coming from discussion with the staff and the elders regarding our church's return to ministry and adjustment to ministry as we're in phase 4. You may remember that in May, I used our midweek connection video to give an update on life and ministry of Hope Church during phase 3 of COVID-19. I reminded you at the time that we serve another king and are citizens and an embassy of another kingdom, yet we have been assigned human kings and governors by God, to whom we are to show obedience and respect. And we've had that discussion about loving God, loving neighbor, loving one another. It's not if we do that, but how do we do that in a way that is most God-honoring. In light of entering phase 4 over the last couple weeks in the state of Illinois, and the reality that this phase may well extend into 2021, and that's the assumption many institutions are grappling with, our schools, for example, that the assumption is that this could be for the duration of several months, the phase that we're in. I want to give you a brief update on how we are planning on doing ministry at Hope Church for the foreseeable future. I'm only going to communicate an outline and overview. I'm going to give you some big concepts. More details will come with other communications from staff and from lay leaders. So let me address 4 things. First, I want to talk about corporate worship. We will continue to offer online resources for the foreseeable future. We just realize that that is just an option that we must maintain, and we will. So we will continue to offer the online resources that we've been offering. We also plan on for the summer months to continue outdoor services through the summer and arguably into the fall, at least into the month of September. And let me explain why. It's the safest way to have social distance. It's the safest way to do corporate congregational singing, which is a concern that the medical experts say. And it's the easiest way to be clean. Another reason is that this gives us enough time to get the supplies and to do the preparations we need for moving indoors. As you can imagine, there is needs for supplies that is hard to get a hold of, as well as some technological things that I'll get to in a few moments. So we are assuming, knowing that rain could come, or if we get past the 95-degree heat index, we may need to cancel an outdoor service. We have the online going, and at least for the next few months, we're going to plan to continue to meet outdoors. Our plan then, though, sometime arguably around September, is to move indoors in the fall with the following practices and guidelines. We will have live preaching and music in the worship center, the sanctuary, and do live streaming in at least 2 other venues, including Fellowship Hall and Drake Hall. Each venue will have their own entrance as well as their own restrooms. Singing will take place at the service, but only at the end. Again, because of particles in the air and things like that, we will make sure that it's at the very end of the service for the least amount of exposure. And we will ask that masks be worn for the duration of the service. In fact, you'll even notice now as a staff, we've committed, except in moments like this where I'm recording, until I walked up, stand behind this table, I was wearing a mask for protection for all. We are going to follow that policy through and through. If you come in and meet with me, I may take you outside so we can chat, because I will be wearing a mask, and I will ask you to do the same, barring health issues. We are planning to have identical services like we've done in the past, 2 services. We're planning to have 2 services, but on different days. That we have talked about having one service in 3 venues on Sunday morning, and the same service in 3 venues on the Wednesday just before. And that's, of course, including the recordings that we will do. The Wednesday service venues will be in the evening. Again, the services will be about 45 minutes to an hour. Of course, on the Sunday, it will be in the morning. They will be identical services that allow time for cleaning and sanitation, and by having 2 different service times, each with 3 venues, allows for the smallest number of people. Similar to our outdoor services, registration will be required. I want to remind you, and this is something we wrestle with, these are family services. We wish we could do the full kids and Sunday school curriculum, but at this time that is not going to be the case. These are family services. There will be no nursery, no preschool. We continue to provide resources for those of you at home, but we are limited in what we can do right now. We are trying to be faithful and deal with this pandemic, COVID-19, at the same time of being the church and doing ministry. So those are ways that we'll address corporate worship. Let me talk about mid-sized groups, secondly, groups of 20 to 50. Beginning in the fall, we will allow for scheduled mid-sized groups to meet in the church for regular ministry activities. That would include things like the moms group, for example, or youth group. Rooms would be designated or reserved to accommodate social distancing. There'd be a specific bathroom assigned for the purpose of cleanliness, and attendance will be taken. Meeting times will be limited to 90 minutes. Masks, again, are required, and only one room each day for sanitation purposes. Again, taking in the best medical advice we can get. If the room sits for a period of time and isn't being used by multiple groups and people, it's the best for duration and time needed for cleanliness. There will be no food, and there'll be no singing. Hard for the church not to do, other than, of course, in corporate worship. And, of course, staff or lay leaders will be expected to utilize cleaning stations for sanitation. We will set up sanitation stations in each of these rooms. We would ask for a mid-sized group like a youth group, or I'll get to small groups in a minute, to be cleaning surfaces and areas that they utilized. That's the third thing I'll talk about, is smaller groups, groups of less than 20. Beginning in the fall, we will allow for smaller groups to meet in the church for regular ministry activities. This includes, for example, your small groups. I realize some of your small groups met in homes or met outdoors, and you may continue to do that. You may also feel safer meeting in the church. You should have received an email from Pastor Casey regarding that information as we try to facilitate not just what the Bible requires, which is corporate worship, but also the significant organic nature of fellowship and relationships in smaller groups. We want to find resources for that, and we're trying to set up these procedures just like with the mid-sized groups, where you would register for a room used one time a day, wearing masks, cleaning and sanitation would be required, attendance would be taken. This way we are doing our best to be faithful in light of all the health risks and questions and uncertainties that we're facing. The last thing I'll share with you this week is this. It's about the church office and ministry staff. I think there's been some confusion regarding, is ministry open or staff available? Yes and yes. Let me explain. Even when our building was closed, ministry never stopped. And honestly, it never will. Currently, the church office is open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday. That's the church office. Earlier phase, it was completely closed. Everyone was working from home. Then we've done a slow open, and for this season, at least for the summer, maybe further and through all phase 4, the office will have a limited time range. But that is very different than staff availability. Our staff are working regular hours, 9 to 5 Monday through Thursday, 9 till noon on Friday, Sunday mornings, and other times as required. If you want to get in touch with a staff person, if you call the church office, if you want to meet with a staff person or a pastor, they are available and accessible. Phones will be answered even if it's after 2 p.m. in the afternoon. We are monitoring the phones the same way we did when the office doors were open. We are just, again, functioning under COVID-19 phase 4. So phones are answered, meetings are being held, work is being done. We are wearing masks. We are asking for proper social distancing. We are asking for people, even among our staff, to provide cleanliness. We are not sharing food or eating food in our church facility with other people. We are abiding by the same principles that we will ask you to do, but ministry is happening. Just before recording this, I spent an hour in the parking lot talking to a brother in our church family. I mean, the ministry is ongoing, and we're finding unique ways to do the same thing. There are still questions you may have. I just gave the big hooks, a few basic bricks that we can build on. More details will come as we move toward the fall and we start using building space more regularly as we gather supplies and technology set up for multi-venue services to allow for meeting the requirements of COVID-19. I realize that there's more questions. You might be asking about Awana. You might be asking about, what about senior saints? You might be asking about men's and women's ministries and retreats. More decisions need to be made, and more communication will be given. But here's what I ask of you, brothers and sisters. I ask you to respond to this time by loving God, loving neighbor, and loving one another. Receiving and doing ministry as an embassy of the kingdom in the State Line area. So I've addressed those 4 areas: corporate worship, moving in the fall to doing corporate worship in the building, mid-sized groups and smaller groups meeting in the building as scheduled with COVID practices that fit phase 4, and then of course the staff and availability and church being open and ministry people being accessible and available. I've addressed those 4. There'll be more to come, but that's what I want to give you in this midweek connection video. Thank you.